Right now, somewhere in your body, there is a face you have not shown anyone in years. Not your work face, not your family face, not the face you make when someone asks how you're doing, and you say good without even thinking about it. A different one, older, quieter. The one underneath all the others. You've forgotten it's even there. And that's not an accident. That's not a personality flaw. That is one of the oldest survival mechanisms your species ever built. Today you're going to find out why you smile when you don't feel like smiling. Why you agree when you don't agree, why you have a slightly different version of yourself for every room you walk into, and why none of that started with social media, or with your job, or with modern life at all. It started somewhere much older, much darker, and much stranger than you think. Let's go back first, not to your childhood, further than that. 200,000 years ago, your ancestors were not living in cities or villages, or even permanent camps most of the time. They were living in small mobile bands. Anthropologists estimate these groups usually held somewhere between 25 and 50 people, sometimes fewer. Everyone in that group knew everyone else. There was no anonymity. There was no stranger passing through unnoticed. There was no version of you that only certain people saw. There was just you, seen by everyone, all the time. And in that world, being seen the wrong way could kill you. Not metaphorically, literally. If the group decided you were a threat, or a burden, or simply too difficult to keep around, they didn't file a complaint. They didn't have a conversation about boundaries, they walked away, or they made you walk away, and a single human being alone on the Pleistocene savanna, without a group's tools, without their combined knowledge of water sources and predator patterns and edible plants, did not survive long. Exile wasn't a punishment. It was closer to a death sentence. So your ancestors developed something extraordinary. A part of the brain and the personality whose entire job was to monitor how they were being perceived and adjust instantly to stay inside the safety of the group. This is where the British anthropologist Robin Dunbar comes in. Dunbar spent decades studying primate social groups, and he found something remarkable. The size of a species' social group correlates directly with the size of its neocortex, the part of the brain responsible for complex thought. Bigger social groups, bigger brains. Not because bigger brains helped early humans build better tools. Because bigger brains helped them track relationships. Who likes who? Who's angry at who? Who might turn on you if you say the wrong thing at the fire tonight? Your brain didn't get big to do math. It got big to do social math. And social math requires something specific. It requires the ability to show one version of yourself to the group, while a different version exists privately, underneath. Psychologists call this gap the difference between your public self and your private self. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, gave this public version a name in the early 20th century. He called it the persona. The word itself is old. In ancient Greek and Roman theater, a persona was literally the mask an actor wore on stage. Jung borrowed the word on purpose. He wasn't describing something fake. He was describing something functional. The persona, Jung wrote, is the mask that allows a person to interact with society, a necessary compromise between who you are and what the world expects from you. Necessary. That word matters. Jung wasn't saying the mask was a lie. He was saying it was armor, and for most of human history, that armor kept people alive. Think about what your ancestors were actually managing every single day. Not deadlines, not notifications. Survival, filtered entirely through relationships. Whether the group trusted you enough to share food during a lean season. Whether you'd be included in the hunt, or left behind with the children and the elderly. Whether a disagreement over territory, or a mate, would turn into something that got you cast out permanently. Every one of those outcomes depended on managing perception. So the brain built a system. A fast, automatic, mostly unconscious system that scans a room, reads the emotional temperature, and adjusts your face, your tone, your posture. Before you've even consciously decided to do anything, you still have that system. You use it every day. You just don't call it survival anymore. You call it being polite, being professional, being easy to get along with. But here's where it gets strange. Because your brain still treats social rejection with almost the same urgency it treated it 200,000 years ago. Even though, for most of you watching this, being disliked by a coworker will not end in starvation. The neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger ran a study that changed how psychologists understand this. She had participants play a simple ball-tossing game inside an fMRI scanner, believing they were playing with two other real people online. At some point, the other players stopped throwing the ball to them, just excluded them. Nothing violent, nothing dramatic, just left out. And the brain scans showed something startling. The same region that activates during physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex, lit up during social exclusion. Your brain, on some level, does not fully distinguish between a broken bone and a broken relationship. Rejection doesn't just feel bad. To your ancient nervous system, it registers as danger, which means the mask isn't just about manners, it's a constant, low-level defense against a threat your body still believes could be lethal. There's another piece to this puzzle, and it comes from an anthropologist named Sarah Blaffer Hrdy. Hrdy studied something most people never think about: the fact that human infants are unusually helpless for an unusually long time, far longer than any other primate. A human baby cannot survive on the effort of one parent alone. Hrdy's research suggests early humans survived through what she calls cooperative breeding, a wide circle of mothers, fathers, grandparents, and unrelated group members all sharing the burden of keeping children alive. Think about what that means for the mask. If your survival, from your very first days of life, depended not just on one caregiver, but on an entire network of adults choosing to invest in you, then the pressure to be perceived as worth investing in didn't start in adulthood. It started in the crib. Long before you had language, your nervous system was already learning to read faces, track approval, and adjust behavior to keep more than one adult willing to protect you. The mask, in other words, isn't something you picked up along the way. It's closer to something you were born already building, so you adjust. Every day, in ways so automatic, you don't notice them anymore. You laugh a little at a joke that wasn't funny. Not because you're dishonest, because somewhere in your nervous system, a very old alarm is checking whether the room still likes you. You say, "I'm fine," when you are not fine. Not because you're hiding something sinister. Because revealing weakness to a Pleistocene brain once meant revealing vulnerability to a group that might not protect you if things got hard. You change how you speak at work compared to how you speak with old friends. Not because one version is fake and the other is real. Because your brain has built, over your entire life, dozens of slightly different personas, each one calibrated to keep you safe inside a specific group. This is where it becomes personal. Because if the mask started as protection, what happens when you stop taking it off? Jung had a warning about this. He believed the danger wasn't wearing a persona. Everyone does, everyone must. The danger was forgetting that the mask isn't you. He wrote that a person could become so identified with the persona that they lose touch with what lies beneath it entirely. Not because they're weak, because the mask worked so well for so long that it became easier to live inside it than to remember what was underneath. Ask yourself something. When was the last time you weren't managing how someone else saw you? Not performing calm. Actually calm. Not performing confidence. Actually certain. Not smiling because the moment called for it. Smiling because something inside you moved on its own. Unsupervised. For a lot of you watching, that answer takes longer to find than it should. And that's the cost nobody warns you about. The persona was built to protect the self underneath it. But protection, over enough years, without ever putting the armor down, starts to look a lot like disappearance. There's a slower, quieter version of this cost too, one that rarely gets talked about. It isn't the dramatic moment of realizing you don't know who you are. It's smaller than that. It's choosing the safe opinion in a meeting instead of the honest one, over and over, until the honest one stops showing up in your head at all. It's agreeing to plans you don't want so consistently that your own preferences start to feel unfamiliar to you. The mask doesn't just hide the self underneath it. Left on long enough, it starts to quietly reshape what that self even wants. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Your ancestors took the mask off. Regularly. Around the fire. In small trusted circles. In rituals, anthropologists have found evidence of across nearly every ancient human culture. Grief rituals, initiation rites, communal storytelling late into the night. These weren't just traditions. They were release valves. Structured, socially sanctioned moments where the persona could come down, where the group agreed implicitly that what was shown there wouldn't be used as a weapon later. Most modern humans have lost that structure entirely. You have colleagues. You might have hundreds of online connections. But how many rooms do you actually walk into where the mask is allowed to come off completely? Without cost, without someone filing it away to use against you later? For many people, the honest answer is 1. Sometimes 0. And a nervous system built across 200,000 years to expect regular release. Getting none doesn't just feel tired. It starts to lose track of what it was protecting in the first place. So where does that leave you? Not with a demand to tear off every mask you own. That would be its own kind of dangerous and, honestly, impossible. Jung himself never suggested destroying the persona. He suggested something quieter. Knowing the difference. Being able to name, at any given moment, whether you are performing safety or actually feeling it. That's the whole shift. Not eliminating the mask, remembering it's a mask. It might be as small as noticing once today that the laugh you just gave wasn't real, and asking yourself quietly what the honest reaction would have been. It might be choosing one relationship in your life, just one, where you decide the mask is allowed to come down a little further than usual. Your ancestors needed a whole tribe around the fire to feel safe enough to do that. You might only need one person, one conversation, one moment of not managing how you're being seen. Because somewhere underneath every version of you that the world has ever met, the professional one, the polite one, the easygoing one, the one who laughed at things that weren't funny to keep the peace, there is a version that has been waiting, patiently, the entire time. Not gone, not destroyed, just quiet, just underused. It doesn't need you to burn the mask down. It just needs you to remember, once in a while, that it's still there underneath it. You've been wearing a mask your whole life. You just didn't know it. Now you do. If this changed the way you see the face, you show the world every day. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and stay. Because there's a lot more hidden in your own biology than you've ever been told.